All right, hello. Hi, Dave. Can you hear me? Let's see him. See if you can hear me.
All right, I'm back.
All right, good to see you. Thanks for stopping by.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. My Zoom is like awesome and terrible all at once.
Not a problem. We appreciate you
I've
taking.
had some audio problems with it, but
Okay, no worries. We're working through. So thanks for joining our class today. So we have kids from Dover Sherburne High School. They're taking TV1 and some TV2 kids in here as well. And I was telling me you were supposed to come down for seminar day, and then basically everything got canceled. And you're like, "I'll come to your class." So I really appreciate you taking the time to come down today and talk to us about what you do for a living and kind of what we're doing in class. So I appreciate
yeah,
it.
yeah, no, I'm happy to do it. Everybody doing okay? Wave if you're doing all right.
Yeah,
All right.
doing all right. Yeah,
I, I'm happy to do it. I feel bad for all you guys that you're not able to be in school right now, and you're lucky you got a cool teacher that's doing this sort of stuff for you.
thank you. No, it's my pleasure. These kids are great. I mean, I wouldn't do this unless they were, would be up for this kind of stuff. So I'm lucky as well. So Dave, just real quick. So Brockton High School, Boston College. What point did you decide you're going to become a writer? Like, how did you kind of get the bug for writing?
Sure. I grew up in Brockton, graduated from Brockton High, and when I was at Boston College, I was originally a marketing major, and I wanted to do something creative, and I thought marketing, but then I got into all the business classes, and I started to not do very well in those, and all my English grades were really good, so I switched majors to English, and that's when I really started to figure out that I was good at writing, and started writing for the paper at college, at Boston College. And then when I got out of BC, I started freelancing for some local newspapers, got my first job at the paper down in Taunton, Massachusetts, the Taunton Gazette, and I became the police reporter, and that's kind of how my career started.
Great. And then from there, you went to like the Weekly Dig and the Herald and.
Yeah, so I moved up to the paper in Attleboro, which is a little bit of a bigger paper, and then I got to the Boston Herald in 1999, and I was a general assignment reporter there for 14 years, and a lot of the time while I was there, I would also freelance for other magazines, and I did some stuff for the Dig. I covered a lot of music over the years. I'm a big metal guy. I used to cover a lot of rap stuff too, and back in the early 2000s. So cover concerts, write features, things like that, and just kind of progressed from there.
Great. So one of these we're working on this class is the idea of writing for television, writing a pilot. And you have a book coming out that's coming out in 2 weeks about Waddy Bulger. But you also had a book, Boston Strong, which is about the Patriots Day bombing. And that book, and I believe one other, was used as the basis for the movie Patriots Day that was shot, I think, in this area as well, with Mark Wahlberg and director
Pete Berg.
Peter Berg, yeah. So what was it like kind of taking like your idea of a story and seeing it kind of transfer over to a visual medium?
Yeah, so that was that was my first book. Amazingly, I'm lucky that it happened the way it did. So I was, when the bombings happened in Boston in 2013, I was the lead reporter covering that story for the Boston Herald. I was like the most veteran person there at the time. So after they captured the terrorists and things settled down a little bit, my co-author Casey Sherman, who was someone I knew through the business, he had been a reporter at Channel 4. A producer, and he got in touch, and we decided to collaborate and do this book together. We knew that it was a big story, and Casey had written a book called The Finest Hours, which became a movie with Chris Pine and Casey Affleck. So he already kind of had a Hollywood agent, literary agent, all that stuff, and before I knew it, so did I, and we started writing that, and the book was actually ended up being used for the script that became Patriots Day. And we were consultants on the script. We got to go to the set, once or twice a week. And, we talked to the director quite a bit. went through the script with them, corrected things that needed to be corrected, made suggestions. Some of them they listened to, some of them they didn't. But it was, it was an incredible process. I learned a lot. I always wanted to do movies, and that's kind of where I'm moving now is towards movies. So it was quite an experience.
It's amazing. So collaboration is something this class is actually pretty much collaborative until we had to move on to the online piece, because they're basically working on productions, they're working in groups, they're editing, they're writing scripts, they're writing marketing, they're doing a little bit of everything in this class. And we had one more kid here, I'm sorry. I got a kid in the waiting room here. All right, she's back in. Sorry about that. So collaboration. So you write with a collaborator. You have like Casey Sherman, who was a producer at BZ, and you've written, I think, 3 or 4 books with him at this point. So
Yeah.
what's it like working with a collaborator? 5 books. What's it like working with a collaborator?
So, it's great. Casey and I, being both having a journalism background, I think made it easy for us to collaborate. But, other people that I've spoken to that have written books with other people haven't had a great experience, because, when you're writing, you want your ideas. You want it to be, your vision. So if you're choosing to work with a partner, you really need to choose someone that shares your vision and first of all, can be respectful of your ideas, because that's the biggest thing is, Casey and I both bring a lot to the table, and we both can be kind of big personalities, and we both kind of think we know everything sometimes. And sometimes we just have to check each other.
Yep.
And fortunately, it hasn't blown up to the point where we didn't want to work with each other. We basically, we kind of keep each other in line. I think we complement each other. We make each other better. And it's, it's not unlike a sports team with, LeBron James makes the other guys on his team better, and that's what you want to do.
That's cool. That's the analogy we actually use in this class. When we start first working in the studio, it's kind of like you're part of a team. It's like everyone's kind of doing their one piece to make everything kind of work collectively. That's kind of cool. You guys kind of see it the same way
Absolutely.
in the world. Cool. So 4 Point Media, you said you were kind of moving more towards movies and television. So that is your company you co-own with Casey Sherman?
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so we launched 4 Point Media a couple of years ago, and we decided to launch it because of our experience with Patriots Day. It was great that we were involved, and they used our book, and they wanted our input, but we weren't given the credit that we thought we deserved. And also, we realized that if we formed a production company, became producers, we could even influence these projects more and have a seat at the table the whole way through, from beginning to end. So that's why we formed 4 Point Media, and that's what we're doing now. Is now we're developing projects, not only our own books, but we're also working with other authors. One we're doing is a story called Tracking the Wild Coomba. It's about this the world's first extreme skier. He's a guy from Massachusetts that created recreational helicopter skiing. He became this incredible mountaineer, and he ended up dying trying to rescue a guy over in France. And a friend of ours wrote the book, and it's just an incredible story. So Casey and I got the rights to that book to develop it as a film, and we're actually writing the screenplay. We're finishing it up right now. We're just about done with the second draft, and then we have a partner that we're working with, Outside Magazine.
Yep.
They have a film and a TV studio called Outside Studios, and they're our partners on it. So once the script is done, we'll deliver it to the Outside Studios guys. They'll give us their thoughts. We'll revise it probably 1 or 2 more times, and then we'll bring it out to actors and directors and try to get it made.
It's amazing. So got a few more questions. We'll open it up to you guys. I'm sure you guys have some questions. I'm just kind of getting the ball rolling here. We'll turn it over. You can always jump in too, guys, anytime you want. Just kind of like pop right in. It's my daughter. I don't know if you can hear in the background.
That's okay.
She likes the photo.
I know the feeling.
Yeah. Oh, so the kids had me noontime yesterday. It was crazy. Hold on, 1 sec. Actually, let me ask you a question. I'll walk away. So, when you write, what's it like for like your normal day? How do you write the script stuff?
Sure. So, hi guys. I'm glad that wasn't one of your kids. Um, so my day is kind of crazy sometimes. You know, I try to always carve out time to write. You know, I try to build myself a schedule. I'm working completely for myself now. I'm on my own. And in addition to my books and the movie development stuff and the script writing, I do some little gigs for different companies and businesses and even politicians where they'll hire me to write some stuff or help them get a press release out, things like that. So, you know, I have a family, so I always have to keep
Right.
business coming in and money coming in. The book and the movie stuff is kind of a roller coaster. You know, we can talk about the business side of that sometime if you want, but it's, you know, you get paid and then you might not get paid for a year, you know, so you have to keep finding different ways to make money. And you guys, I'm sure all understand that, you know, you probably heard the term gig economy, and that's like a big deal now with creatives like myself, where, you know, no one's going to just go, here's a salary for you to write books for us forever. You know, you get a book deal and you work on that for a year or two, and then you got to find the next one and the next one and the next one. So I spend probably half my time kind of doing business and finding business, and then the other half of my time I carve out to just be creative and write. And it may even be more. Sometimes it's more. Like right now, I'm more in the creative zone because, you know, I'm home, first of all, you know, no one's doing anything. And two, you know, we have some deadlines, like the script is due. We have to deliver that script. So
Yeah.
I'm kind of really focused on that.
Right. Yeah. Because I see your stuff for my wife works at BMC, so I've seen you've written a few things for
Yeah.
in the last couple of weeks about what they're doing with the virus and.
Yeah, that's a great example. You know, that's the kind of thing where, so I'm doing some freelance writing for a website called Health City, which is run by Boston Medical Center. And I just had some mutual friends over there, and they needed, with the coronavirus situation, they needed some writers to help them get information out about what's going on at the hospital and things like that. So that's a good example of a little freelance gig that I picked up, which is some extra money to help get me through this time when, you know, I don't have a full-time job. So.
Right. Right. So deadlines for like, how long do you usually take for you to have a deadline for like a script or something you need to pass into a producer?
Yeah, so you know, a script or a book, so far my experience is around a year. It could be like 6 months to a year, depending on the timeline. Patriots Day was very fast. You know, we wrote that book really fast. I think we wrote that book in like 6 months. And then the script was done in like another 6 months. And then it got greenlit. And then filming and all that was another 3 to 4 months. So from concept to release for that movie was about 2 years, which is really, really fast for a movie, especially a movie of that scope. I mean, that was a $85 million budget. I'm sorry, $65 million budget for that movie. You know, it's explosions, big budget movie, and all that stuff. So, but with the script, you know, for example, outside the Kumba story, that script, it's basically we've been working on it on and off for about a year, but you know, the writers we work with, we did a book called The Ice Bucket Challenge, which is about Pete Frates, the kid who started the Ice Bucket Challenge. And we're developing that now as a feature film. We have a script now that a couple of writers wrote. The guys, you guys might know them, the Divergent series. Any of you guys know that series, Divergent? The guys who wrote Allegiant, the second one, wrote that script. And we're not super happy with it, but they got hired by the studio to write that, and that happened pretty fast. I think they wrote it in about 3 or 4 months. So I think anyway, a script from an adaptation from a book can be like three months to a year, year and a half.
Okay. Yeah, so we don't write scripts in class. A lot of kids are like, you know, why don't we write a script? Because it takes forever. Like I'd have to teach like a full course just in script writing. So we're basically usually doing like the pre-production stuff, just kind of showing how the idea can kind of formulate, how collaboration will work, and then you know, how to do something on a smaller scale. They do basically like, instead of making a movie, we do movie trailers. We do.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, and right now
the biggest thing I've learned with the script stuff is that it's going to go through many revisions, and you can't get upset about that. Again, it goes back to collaborating, where we all think we're the smartest person in the world. We all think we have the best ideas and that our dialogue and our story is the coolest. But there's always someone that can add something to that and make it a little bit better. And you have to trust that process. And that's what Casey and I are going through right now, where, I wrote the first draft of the ski script, which I loved. I loved every scene that I put in. I thought it was great. And I gave it to Casey. And I don't want to say he ripped it apart, but we're moving a lot of things around. And after I listened to him and thought about the changes he wanted to make, they're all good and they're all going to make it better. So that's what you want. Ultimately, you want to get it to the point where several people agree that it's ready to make and it's really good. And you can't make that decision on your own.
Right. That's one of the things that's, so I'm glad you said that, because part of what, looking at like screens here of like, 20, 21 of my kids, none of us are really working together, but it is the idea of like listening to each other, collaborating with ideas and coming to that common good of like, you might have a really good idea, but I might be able to add something to it, or maybe you take one piece away from that, move it over here. It's going to make a big difference to the overall look of what, finally is going to be out there to the public that's marketable and also watchable, that people are going to want to tie into.
Well, I'll give you do you want a quick example of that?
Sure.
So we wrote a book in 2018 called 12, and it's about Deflategate and Tom Brady. We started developing that as a film, and we had the guys who wrote The Fighter and Patriots Day. They actually wrote a treatment for the treatment is basically the vision for what the story is going to be, and they wrote it basically as a Tom Brady biopic. And that went out to Hollywood, and they shopped it to all the people that they normally do. And a lot of people liked it, but all the studio executives basically agreed that you can't make a Tom Brady biopic right now because A, he's still playing, and B, people either love him or hate him. The people that love him, that's New England. That's not enough people to fill a movie theater around the world. The people that hate it probably aren't going to want to see it. So long story short, we've got some new partners involved in that project now. And now what we're actually doing is we're taking the story from the perspective of the union attorney who represented Tom Brady in his fight against the league. And the lead character is going to be a female union attorney. And the goal now is, where we're going is it's probably going to be a limited series. Mm-hmm. And the point there is, that was someone's idea that we partnered with, and their perspective totally changed the project and made it much more viable. We're to the point now where, we have a good shot at getting this thing made at this point, fingers crossed.
Yeah, definitely. Hopefully. And that's what we talked about.
And frankly, it's a way better story. She's much, Tom Brady's awesome, rah, rah, Tom Brady, but she's such an interesting character, and it's a lot more people can relate to her.
Right. That's one of the things we talk about in this class too, is the idea of perception, the idea of like, who's going to tell this story? There's different ways to tell the story. Which one are you going to pick to kind of show, people what you're trying to get across? And by just doing that, that's
half the battle.
Yeah, doing that also opens up to a whole, outside New England now with that. So very, very cool. All right, guys. Guys, got any questions? I've been talking a lot, more than I usually do. Anyone got any questions? Don't be shy. Oh yeah, Jagger, what do you got for me?
So when you co-write a book, how do you do that? Like, do you focus on different chapters, or you do it all at once?
That's a great question. A lot of people ask us that. Casey and I have gotten pretty good at dividing and conquering. We kind of divide up the work. And so, for example, with our new book, the Whitey Bulger book, Casey took the first half of the story, and I took the second half. So he's writing about the day that Whitey Bulger went on the run, and he takes us through when he was captured. And then I pick up the story from there, and I write about him going to prison for the first time, his trial, and then his murder in prison. So we kind of divide the story into, 2 or 4 parts, and he takes 2 and I take 2. That said, when I'm doing my interviews, I might interview someone that might have something that might fit better into his section, and vice versa. And we kind of share that stuff with each other. And, we've now done 5 books together, so we're getting a lot better at it. But it's a constant give and take and a work in progress.
That's great. Thank you, Jagger. Anyone else got a question? Grace, what do you got for me? And Carl, I'll get you next.
would you like ever think about like directing or acting or doing other types of like filmmaking parts and as well as screenwriting?
That's a good question. When I was younger, maybe I would have thought of that, but I have no interest in being an actor at all. First of all, I don't need to be in front of the camera. But uh, directing, I probably not. I mean, I'd rather write, but as I make more projects, maybe I learn more about directing. Maybe I would like to do it, but I see myself pretty much as a writer and a producer. I like the producing part, and basically producing. I'm sure Mr. Sweeney, sorry,
Oh, that's
I'm
right.
sure he's talked. I'm sure he's talked to you guys about what producing actually is, but it's a very broad term, and I'm learning every day still what producing is, and I am a producer. But it's basically you're bringing people together. You're bringing creative people together to get a job done. That's what it is, and I love that. I love talking to other people, and like I just explained with the Tom Brady story, getting different ideas. What do you think? What do you think? What do you think? Find the best one that can actually get it made. So I like that stuff better than, I don't want to say lines and have to get makeup put on and all that.
Great question, Grace. Thank you. Carly, do you have a question? Does your hand go up?
So do you how do you pick with all the super popular things that happen, like with the Patriots and the deflating the footballs, that whole thing? How do you pick which side you wanna portray in your book, or whatever you're?
No, that's a great question too. So, if you look at all the books that Casey and I have done, every one of them has a sort of theme of redemption or hero. So like in the Boston Marathon book, the survivors are the heroes, and there's a redemption there where they were knocked down, but they got back up, Boston strong, with Pete Frady's pretty clear, he gets this horrible diagnosis with this disease. Instead of giving up, he creates the biggest online philanthropic effort in the history of mankind with the Ice Bucket Challenge. With Tom Brady, again, it's the union attorneys. They're fighting against the NFL. They're the heroes that fight for Tom Brady and ultimately, help him to try to clear his name. And with Whitey Bulger, the heroes in this book are the FBI agents that, put aside all the corruption and decided to finally focus on capturing him, and they ended up catching him. So what we do when we look at a story is we try to find that silver lining, so to speak. Boston Strong, like the marathon bombings is obviously very sad, but our book isn't sad. Our book is filled with hope. And when you finish the book, I think you have a good feeling where you're like, wow, those people are incredible. They survived that and they're still doing great things. And that's really what every story we tell, we want people to have that feeling.
Excellent. Anyone else got a quick question? These are great questions so far, guys. I really appreciate it. Anyone? No? Lily? No? All right, cool. It's like the old, thought I saw the hand go up kind of thing, except it's on
That's
Zoom.
okay.
Instead of,
There's no stupid questions. You can ask me anything. I'm an
well,
open book.
we talk about that all the time in class. One of the first things we say in this class is there's no stupid questions. So,
Yeah.
let's see. Go back to Pete Frady's. So I saw on Twitter today, you actually had a video of Pete Frady's hitting a home run, looked like in Fenway.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. So that was in the bean pot, the baseball bean pot. That was the year before he. I think that was his senior year of Boston College. It was the year before he was diagnosed, I believe. Mm-hmm. And I just love that clip because he was a kid that wanted to be he wanted to be a baseball player his whole life. And growing up around here, there's no better achievement than hitting a home run at Fenway Park. And he did that. And it's just a real special moment, I think, for him and his family to have that.
Yeah, it was amazing to look at.
Yeah.
On today.
I can't believe no one has asked me yet what's Tom Brady like. That's usually the first question I get.
I'm surprised too. So I'm sure you can nod. You guys want to know that, right? Oh, great. I see Grace has a question too. So let's answer. Did you have the Brady question, Grace? You have another one?
No, I have a different question.
Okay.
So I know that Peter Berg directs the Friday Night Lights, or he created the Friday Night Lights TV series, which I'm a big fan. If you can see, I have a poster there. It says Claire.
Nice.
So what was he like if you don't mind me asking.
Yeah, sure. So Pete Berg is great. You know, you probably know, Grace, that his brother wrote that book, or his cousin, I believe, wrote that book, Friday Night Lights, and he adapted it from that book. He was, I mean, you know, I didn't go to film school, but I feel like I did because I got to sit on a set with Pete Berg day after day, and just sitting there watching the way he shoots was incredible. You know, a lot of directors stick to the script and they kind of try to manipulate scenes and blah blah blah, but Pete really just turns the camera on and says go, and he just keeps it rolling. And he rolls, and you know, he would have Mark Wahlberg just continue to say the same line in the same scene over and over and over, and then it's all in the editing with Berg. It's all in the editing. He takes the best take. You know, there may be a scene with like 2 or 3 people. He may use one take from Mark Wahlberg, a different take from John Goodman, and a different take from Kevin Bacon, and edit them all together so it works. And if you watch his movies, you know, there's a lot of jump cuts and smash cuts, you know, where he jumps around, and that's because he's telling the story through these great takes. Some of his movies are better than others, you know, but he was really, and he works really fast. And he's like high energy dude, and he was cool.
Excellent. Great question, Grace.
If you like him, you should watch what's Aspen Extreme. Have you ever seen that movie?
No.
It's pretty terrible, but it's fun to watch. It's an old like an early '90s ski movie, but Pete's in it, and he's kind of funny in it.
Interesting.
Okay.
All right, very good. So I'll ask the question about Tom Brady that everyone's thinking about in this classroom. So what's he like? Because I'm sure the kids want to know.
Brady?
Oh no, Tom Brady. What's he like? That was
Yeah. So you know, we didn't get, you know, unfortunately we didn't get to like hang out with him like at his house or anything like that. But you know, we did hang out with him a little bit at the stadium, and then we talked to him through this sort of, you know, thing. Like we would send him questions and he'd respond and things like that. But he's, you know, I think he's, first of all, a really good person. Like, I think he's a really good guy. I think kind of what you see is what you get with Tom, where, you know, he doesn't have a huge ego, and he does always, I think he truly always looks at himself as the underdog, even though with everything he's achieved and, you know, looks like he has a perfect life. I think he sees himself as that kid from Michigan that almost didn't get drafted and constantly has to prove himself. And I kind of think that's what this Tampa Bay thing is all about, where he's like, okay, Belichick doesn't want me anymore. Everyone in the league thinks I'm done. All the pundits think I'm, you know, one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL. I'm going to go to Tampa and win the Super Bowl there and show them all. And I think that's the kind of guy he is.
Mm-hmm. Very cool. Very cool. So how do you pitch a story like that to them? Like you know, Tom Brady, big name. I think Pete Frates, did you talk to him halfway through the Ice Bucket Challenge, or like how do you pitch an idea to someone who's doing something in real time?
Yeah. So, well, with the Frates family, you know, Pete, we were lucky that, you know, Pete was no longer talking when we started that project, but he could still communicate through Facebook Messenger. Mm-hmm. So we could ask him questions and he would answer. So if you guys ever read that book, there is some things in there that came directly from Pete, which I'm really happy that we were able to get that. The family came to us because they, you know, we had just come off Boston Strong and Patriots Day was being made. So they kind of came to us, and the idea was already there. But, you know, once we put together the book proposal, you know, we had to sell it to our agent, and they loved the story, obviously. So it got, you know, we got to do that book. With the Tom Brady one, you know, I think we had to have a pretty unique angle on the story, which we did, which, you know, we chose for that one. You know, that book goes from Deflategate through the end of the 28-3 Super Bowl. So we just kind of kept it focused on that moment in Tom Brady's career. So it's not really an auto, you know, it's not a biography of Tom Brady's life. There is some elements of that in it, but it's really a snapshot in time of that really difficult test that he went through in the courtroom battle that he went through with, in the battle with the NFL. And that's really what that story is about. So that's what we had to sell to to our agent, and that's what was in the proposal. And our agent sold it to, that one was with Hachette Books did that, which is a big publisher. And that book did really well. So, and it's actually, we're re-releasing it in paperback in September. So that's exciting.
Nice. Very good. Okay, guys, any more questions for Dave Wedge before we wrap it up? Oh, yeah, Jagger, what do you got for me?
How many of your books have been created into movies?
So far, just Patriots Day, but my co-author had The Finest Hours, which I mentioned before. And then Casey wrote another book called Animal, which is kind of a prequel to Whitey Bulger, which is about this. He was actually this guy, Vinny the Animal Barboza, and he was the first ever criminal put in the Federal Witness Protection Program. So it's his whole story. It's a wild story. And the guys who wrote Black Klansman actually have written the screenplay for that, and that's at Fox. And we actually just got the latest script, and it looks pretty good. But, we have 5 or 6 things at different stages of development, and you just never know when it's going to happen. But so far, just Patriots Day that Casey and I did together.
Very good. Great question. All right, guys, anyone else before we wrap it up? Everyone's pretty good. So just a final thought. We have kids here that are kind of working on these projects. Maybe they're thinking about doing this for a living. What do you give them as a final thought for, to get into this kind of business? What do they really need to think about education-wise going forward in college or even life education?
Yeah. Well, I think, read a lot, number one, read as much as you can, read stories that interest you and try to find things that interest you. You don't have to read necessarily what everyone else tells you should read. Just, I always find I walk around bookstores and something will just somehow pull me in. And that's how I found some of the best books that have influenced my life. A book like Hell's Angel about Sonny Barger. I discovered that book just walking through a Barnes and Noble. I'm a true crime, biography sort of reader. And I just saw it and the cover looked cool. And it was a book that was, I learned a lot from. So I would say read a lot, number one. Number two, try to write. Don't be afraid to just write. You don't have to write for an assignment. You can write for yourself. And as you start to get older and you go to college, look for opportunities to get published. The school paper is a good place to start. And, you may not like what you're writing for the school paper, but it's going to teach you the discipline of writing, deadlines, how to write formulaically as is required by whatever the organization is that you're writing for. Because you have to be able, if you're going to be a writer, you need to write in many different styles and you need to be able to do it to the request of the people that are paying you to do it. And there's nothing wrong with changing your writing style to get paid. That doesn't mean you can't write the things that you still want to write. So you need to be versatile is my point. So find all sorts of different ways to write if you want to do that.
Awesome. All right, great. Guys, what do you think? Good stuff, huh? All right, so Dave's book or Mr. Wedge's book comes out the 23rd, the 29th, I can't remember. 26th. Hunting Whitey, the inside story, the capture and killing of America's most wanted crime boss. So it comes out. He also has another book. We learn about John Lennon in his class through the history of the 1960s. And Ed Sullivan, you have a book about him coming out in December, I believe you said?
That's in December, yeah.
December, yeah.
So if any of you guys want to follow up with me, I'm happy to give you my email or, you can find me on social media, but my email is just David M, as in Michael, David M Wedge @gmail. So if you guys ever want any advice, I'm happy to respond to you anytime.
Awesome. So guys, thank you so much for stopping by. Dave, you just want to stay for 1 second so I can talk to you when everyone leaves. Sure. But guys, thank you so much for stopping by. Hopefully it's going to help you out with your project. We're going to start working on next week. Keep doing the great job you've been doing so far. These things are looking really, really good. We got 2 more of these planned. We have a filmmaker coming in another 2 weeks and someone who's a branding expert coming in right before we're done. So thank you for taking the time outside of class to join us on Zoom.